Hi folks, welcome to our little ball of mud. I'm out here in North Phoenix, Cave Creek, Arizona right now, visiting Anthony Covington, who is a retired Illinois fireman, now counseling, leading people spiritually, and their livelihoods, their marriages. So he came from putting out their fires to fixing their marriage.
Putting out fires in a different way, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, welcome, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome to the
Yeah.
show. What made you think when John said, you know, I got this ribbon, and you said, ooh, I want to do that? What made you think that?
Well, I think I have something to say
Okay.
that's useful,
Okay.
that may help people turn from a dark path to a path that's more lit, that they can kind of see a sense of purpose. Just some ideas that have been
Nice.
helpful for me,
Mhm.
surely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you actually see people through the Zoom, and then they talk to you about their issues and things. How do they get to you?
Well, there's a couple of different ways, and Zoom is not the only way. That's just one of many mediums, okay? So, but they register through a divorce care class. I've been in recovery for 30-something years.
Okay.
And COVID has really been a game changer in terms of, I see it as a move spiritually. It lets people know where they are and where they are not. So what has happened is you take...
Spirit works in weird ways, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it's so amazing and it's so rich.
Uh-huh.
So we've been running and things have just been going, good, bad, or indifferent. But what this has done, at least in my takeaway, is you've got something that you can't even see with the naked eye that has really turned the whole global economy on its head.
And shown how we're all connected.
Definitely shown how we're all connected.
Yeah.
And things that we tend not to give a lot of press towards, just this idea of death and dying, as for instance, is constantly in your face. And I just thought it was really interesting because I've seen a lot of us living in entitlement and presumption for so long. It's really interesting how something like this can put its finger on the pulse and help you to, like I say, see where you are or where you are not. And so I embraced it. I mean, what else are you going to do, right?
With that.
Right. I couldn't do much about it. And so when you're pressed, it helps you to kind of lean into something other than yourself to see where you are. And so in recovery, for instance, one of the things that emerged out of that is we used to go to meetings, and I used to do divorce care as a for instance. I would do it at a facility, and the registration process was pretty much the same. Everybody register online, but we had to find new ways to adapt, to keep people safe and that kind of stuff. So it's been, for me, it's been really good. And people are more apt to talk about the exact nature of what's going on with them because you have this idea of pressure impeding on you, and you're seeing friends and loved ones struggle with all kinds of things, and particularly the idea of death and dying. And when I think about that, it's challenging for me not to think about that without thinking about the idea of the spiritual world.
Mm-hmm.
Is this all that there is? Is there something more?
Gee, I don't know. We're on a little ball of mud in space, and could there be more?
Could there be more? It's a great question to
What a
ponder.
great, isn't it?
Huh?
It's a wonderful thing to ponder and to meditate on. And there's so many people that don't, they're so busy chasing the almighty dollar and security also,
Mm-hmm.
that they have the tendency to lose track of where they are is constantly in their face,
Yeah.
because it's all the physical world, it's all Maya, and it's so easy to just get wrapped up in the struggle and lose the spirituality that we're all part of, isn't it?
All connected, like you said earlier, and you said so much. The almighty dollar. What it seems like to me, what gets your attention gets you, right? And so I found years ago, long before all of this occurred, that a lot of my life was spent in the acquisition of things and stuff, money, security, and there was almost an idolatrous.
Next year.
Oh yeah, right. There was almost an idolatrous worship of that, in place of worshiping a vibrant, living God as something that puts the breath of life in me, that is in charge of my circulatory system and the gas exchange in my lungs, things that I don't even give any account to. But I'm worshiping this idol of money and the acquisition of stuff, and I start to see it in others because I've seen it in myself. It wasn't like I was removed from it. And start realizing there's got to be more to life than just that. And then the other thing is that you mentioned meditating on just certain ideas, and that's been something that has really been an amazing transformation for me, because you get an opportunity to still yourself. Now your mind thinks, so a lot of people think about meditation and think, okay, well I need to still my mind. Well, good luck with that.
It's called the monkey mind for a reason.
Right, exactly. But to practice acting out, sitting still for 5, 10, 20 minutes a day, or more if necessary. And what I've been doing is I've been reflecting on being in the presence of the love of God. Some ideas that really have been meaningful to me is the idea of, we call it the Imago Dei, which is a way of saying that we're all created in the image and likeness of God. So we have this intrinsic value, right? So that speaks to how do we treat each other, how do we interact, how do I value you as a human being? How am I valuing myself and how I treat myself, what I put in my body, how I love my wife, for instance, how I take care or just being mindful of when I'm walking through the course of the day and I interact with people, I'm honoring that divinity within them by saying, you have value because you have been made in that image and likeness of a loving God.
Did you have an epiphany?
How many?
Well, I know, but usually
Yeah.
the first one is just, it was for me.
Mm-hmm.
The first one was just like huge.
Mine was not necessarily a blowout, more like a slow leak. And what I mean by that is there are known knowns. There are certain things that we know that we don't give an account to because we're distracted by all this stuff, by all this noise over here. It's like my wife, I tease my wife sometimes, a friend of mine, Pat, our wives are very similar, and they see little shiny things and then they're off over here. I said, no, get back to the main things and the plain things. But what I believe occurs is we're so easily distracted by those shiny things, the nice car, my 401k. We accumulate all this debt, competing with our neighbors, trying to, who has the best whatever it is. And we lose track of those meaningful things. Now, that has always been in the background. The idea of death, what we talked about with COVID, now it's in your face, right? We've always known that 1 out of every 1 person dies, right?
Nobody leaves here alive.
Yeah, it's not a matter of if, it's when. But if I can just push that off into this unknown future, because I'm distracted with all of this stuff, I don't have to really give attention to what is life really about. Is it something deeper than just what's on the surface? Is there a spiritual realm that I need to give an account for? Or am I just stuck in space and time? And then I live and I die and that's it. Have a nice day. So I think this is something a lot deeper than that. And so I've always had that in the background. And every now and then something would wash ashore to grab my attention.
Gotcha.
So it wasn't this big epiphany in that it was just this slow progression over time.
As a fireman,
Yeah.
you must have confronted danger.
Yeah.
And danger can shock you into a realization sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. My wife calls it Anthony-isms, but it's one of the little sayings is through goodness and through goodness and wisdom we make promises, but the pain we obey. Right? Pain has a way of getting your attention. That goodness and wisdom you can kind of give plausible but untrue attention to. And so seeing that on a regular basis and not having the luxury of deniability, that it can happen at any time, in any place, seeing these most arbitrary of situations, people kind of like progressing along life on life's terms, and all of a sudden they get this call on the phone that they need to come back home because their home is fully engulfed in flames. And then seeing all that they put their whole life and where they reside, their home, just up in flames. And then seeing the despair and all of that over because everything that they valued, that they believed in, goes up in smoke. Now, a lot of people.
Maggie and I are talking. We have a friend whose house just burned up last week.
Wow.
To the ground.
Oh yeah.
And the main thing that saved him, and because once that happens, everything's gone.
Right.
Everything that you were attached to and depended on and used it to hide from society with, and
Exactly.
and it's just gone. And what saved him was a burn box. A $35 burn box from Amazon saved him.
Wow.
Because there was his birth certificate, there was his, da.
Right.
In a burn box.
And all that stuff
And everything else was gone. Now Maggie and I have a burn box. If you don't have a burn box in your house, folks,
get one.
put what you definitely do not want to lose in that little box.
Well, you see people recalibrate on those issues because in short order you start to realize, okay, this is gone. And this is shocking. I can grieve, but we start asking questions like, if we live with others, you know, is everybody safe? At least I got out alive. I have a pet, you know. Those things, we start to recalibrate ourselves to what really matters.
Huge wake-up call.
It is a wake-up call. Now, those questions have always been present.
But
Right. And you said something about hiding. What has really, and I see happening like in my divorce care, I see it in recovery, I see it in a lot of areas of life in people's spiritual walk, is how do I live in an organic way, not forced, but just transparent, vulnerable, not hiding, let's say behind the fig leaf of my shame, because we all make mistakes and do things that we may feel in error, but just acknowledging the reality of those things and how we fall short, but even and then how we embrace others who do the same, but doing that in love, with grace, and exposing myself so that I'm not hiding behind all these things and stuff to kind of puff up and say, oh, look at me, because I drive a nice car or whatever, you know, or look at me because of what I wear or what I have, and all these illusions of security. And I think we kind of talked about it on the phone, like the only thing that we have is right now. You and I have this moment. And everything else is a presumption. Now, it may be based in some real good data from previous experiences and that kind of stuff, but tomorrow's not promised. So therefore, how am I to live today? And to me, God speaks to us in so many different ways with regards to things. Like, I can't breathe enough air today to keep me alive tomorrow, as a for instance. And I have a sponsor that always talks about if it's not practical, it's not spiritual. How practical is breathing? Take a breath. How we get grounded in meditation by, if our minds are so noisy, we breathe and we feel that moment that we're in. And the reality is, this is what we have right here and right now. So how do I bless it? How do I get the chills and almost brings me to tears, because it's just so important to be in the moment.
I believe it's Muhammad that said a truly spiritual man can't consider himself spiritual unless he wishes the same on others that he wishes on himself. And that's the simplicity of that statement. I mean, it's kind of like this. You look at this and you go like, well, yeah. You know, it's
self-evident, right?
Oh, yeah. It just means it's taking that moment, and it's how we are with one another constantly.
Constantly. Moment by moment.
And also in our thoughts, and how we keep them at the same level as our expression out here. Because we can have really different stuff up here going.
Yeah, some real dark.
There are some real dark areas we can just go, you know, like, well, it's private, nobody can say anything about that.
Conscious, but you're seeing something about it, because you know it. And God knows.
And we're programmed by it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because we're very easily programmed. Very easily. Pavlov's dog has nothing against us.
I know.
Right? And you know, you just think those little dark thoughts repeatedly for a while, and pretty soon, it's the, what is that saying? You know, it's the one you feed.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember a doctor friend of mine would talk about that, the wolf that you feed. Sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny.
Wow.
It always
I
begins
love it. With that little.
It all begins in your mind. It all begins in your mind.
Sweet.
And that's why it's so important to know that, well, we have conscience, but we do have God, you know, and even biblically speaking, God is not proven, God is just assumed. You know, in the first book of the Bible says, in the beginning, God. It's not trying to prove God. It is an assumption that God exists. I didn't create myself. I didn't determine the day that I was born. Even my name was given to me. So a little humility in knowing the things that I lack, like things like I don't know the day that I'm going to die. And so a little humility in walking through just ideas like that, for instance. I don't know how my interaction with others may impact me for the good. And you were talking about Muhammad, and I think I've heard it also mentioned, like the golden rule. You know, and it used to hear people, if you don't want something to happen to you, you shouldn't do that to other people.
Do it to others that way.
But it's the other way. In a more positive vein is do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Be nice. Just be nice.
And I like that idea. One of the things, and we call it the fruits of the Spirit, and I had to wrestle with this in relationship with my daughter, because I raised my granddaughter in the absence of my daughter being present, as a for instance. And it's because she has some ideas that predisposes her not being present for her child. And instead of nice, I like the word kind. Because kind seems to have a soul to it, it has more girth to it. And what I mean by that is sometimes nice can be go along to get along. I don't want to cause conflict. But if I see you doing something in error, and my motivation to try to persuade you to see that, or maybe even correct that, is based in love, in grace, in truth. Because sometimes truth doesn't feel like it's kind, but sometimes it's necessary for people to give expression to reality. And I can live in this fantasy, oh, I'm not going to die, or I don't have to give any attention to these spiritual concerns, as a for instance. But kindness is like has a different depth to it for me. And so I walk through that kindness in love, because it needs to start there. In grace, in truth, in transparency, giving of myself, making that need for someone else. We talked about this whole idea of to truly love someone is to give your life for them. But what I mean by giving your life is not dying, but making what's important to them more important and what's important to you subservient to them, so you put your life on pause to engage in the life with them. And so when we talk about kindness and truth and that kind of thing, sometimes truth can be really difficult. Like if I go to the doctor, for instance, I had prostate cancer at one point. And my wife and I prayed, say, you know, Lord, whatever glorifies you, do that. Because I don't really know what to do in this. But wouldn't it have been a tragedy that the doctor says, you know, you're fine. We've seen a little something, but I wouldn't really give any attention to that. Just go on and live your life the way. That would be brutal, wouldn't it? That would be unkind.
Not giving you the opportunity to put to use the medical processes available.
Well, right.
Yeah.
Because I want to be nice, and I don't really want to tell you that you
And
got
proactive.
cancer, because I know cancer
Oh, yeah,
might
right.
really throw you for a loop. You know, it's the old C word. But go ahead.
How can they get in touch with you,
How can?
these folks?
Oh. Well, so I I want to give my number out.
No.
So divorce care, as a for instance, divorcecare.org is one way. I'm affiliated with Scottsdale Bible Church. Okay, so that's one lens that people can go through. Now, one of the things I forgot to mention too is we have Nancy German and I have a website. We call it True North Consulting. I just completely forgot about it. Just blinked on that. Which we do leadership training, and we go into treatment centers. We actually talk to police and fire departments with regards to what leadership looks like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of times people are installed in positions where they don't have the competencies to really be effective in those positions.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talk about stuff like that. But on a more personal level, like the divorce care, I've been in, like I said, recovery for 30-something odd years. And a lot of these principles that have become important to me, not just to talk about, but actually live out, have been born out of my own transformation, walking through my own pain and difficulty and those kinds of things. So
Life lessons.
life lessons. So truenorth.com, divorcecare.org are some of the ways to get access, to talk more personally about how this can impact each one of us one by one. So each one teach one. So play it forward, share it with someone else. If they find it meaningful, they find utility in it, then they can play it forward to others.
You're really a hippie, aren't you?
You know, come on, I'm a 60s. I grew up in the 60s. Of course I'm a hippie.
Is this a large?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Let me see. My eyes are still.
No, I think that's a small.
No, I don't know. Let me see.
Very small.
That's a medium.
It's a medium?
That's a medium, yeah.
I think there's
That's
a
good.
large.
Right.
Would you rather have a large?
Yeah.
I think a large would work.
Would work for me. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I am a hippie. Well, John Manning and I are.
Yeah, well, that,
He, he's definitely a hippie, right?
I know. He's a great mountain climber.
Oh yeah, we did Black Mountain the other day. It
I
was
heard
really
you.
good.
You did. We actually were on ropes and thingies before.
Oh yeah, John, he's the real deal.
Okay, so this is for Anthony, everybody.
Nice.
His own Our Little Ball of Mud shirt.
I think I'm gonna have to wear that today.
This is a small one you're not going to need.
Yeah, that's a medium. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I didn't know gifts were going to be involved in this.
Thank you. Well, I don't say it because, but I want you to know how much I appreciate it. You know, having this time to talk with
Oh
us.
yeah, for sure. Thank you. It's, this is rich. This is what life is about,
So
right?
what is your message to humans?
Yeah, we're right down at that time.
What is my message?
Yeah,
Wow.
to the humans out there.
Wow.
Folks, listen.
Wow. That's a really, you should have prepared me for that question. I could have prepared a statement, but I
No,
would have gone
that's
the fly.
why we don't.
Yeah, that's why you don't do that. Oh, wow. So, what emerges for me is some of the elements of what I call the fruits of the Spirit, which is love, joy, patience, peace, kindness, gentleness, not being afraid to be real and be transparent. You know, what comes from the heart reaches the heart. And vulnerability is scary. I talk to a lot of men, especially in counseling, about being vulnerable. And we're so busy hiding our true selves under this guise that we have this strength. And there's a power unimaginable by just being real and being vulnerable and talking about those things that are seemingly, from a worldview, people would call weak, because those are the very things that make us strong.
Nice.
One of the greatest examples that I have, and it's a template throughout life for me, is going through active addiction and then getting into recovery as a consequence of that. So when I got to the end of myself, I tapped out and I surrendered. And in that vulnerability, it was like a power greater than myself strengthened me to be able to carry that message to others, that you don't have to live like that. That you're loved more than you could ever imagine. And you're valued.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Anthony,
God
thank you
bless
for
you.
having us, brother. God bless you. And folks, just remember, you're responsible for your own happiness. Don't give
Amen.
that to somebody else, because you're giving away your freedom.
Amen.
Amen,
All right,
brother.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've done it.
Awesome.